to be getting a little bit of Tony Bloom's time this evening. Obviously, just about 500 pledgers in the room today. Obviously, you are first and foremost when it came to selling this event, but we're also welcoming non-pledgers, the wider fan base, on a live stream on YouTube this evening as well, so a big hello to everyone tuning in. The format is, it'll be about 45 minutes of myself interviewing Mr. Bloom, and then we'll have a 15-minute break. There's bars open, both bars here at half-time, and the supporters bar, so there's 3 bars for you to go and charge your glasses again, and obviously use that as a bit of a bathroom break as well. The second half will be, again, 45 minutes. A big thanks to everyone who submitted questions. We'll be taking no questions from the floor this evening. Everyone who submitted questions will get in theirs asked this evening. Just quick housekeeping as well. Keep your phones on silent, have your full attention on everything that's going on. And finally, for the first time here at Tynecastle Park, join me in welcoming onto the stage Tony Bloom. Tony, a proper Gorgie welcome for you there. Welcome to Hearts.
Well, thank you everyone for that very, very warm welcome. So,
try again.
Is that working better?
Yeah. Another round of applause. There we go.
Well, thank you so much for that really, really warm welcome. Good evening to you all, and also to everyone watching on the live link. I'd like to thank the Foundation of Hearts and all of its members, for inviting me here and giving me the opportunity to meet a lot of you tonight. It is a very, very special fan-owned club, and it's an honour and it's a privilege to be an investor in Heart of Midlothian, and I really appreciate the vote of thanks that you gave to me at the end of June. The role of the foundation, the interaction that it has with the football club is very special, and it's a significant reason that I decided to invest in Hearts. I think the way the foundation is set up is very special. The way that you saved the club just over 10 years ago, it's similar to a situation of my boyhood club, Brighton and Hove Albion, which almost went out of existence in the late 90s. So, I can really understand how much that means to everyone in this room. And I think it's a really good opportunity to show my appreciation to Anne Budge, because she was the instigator, and without her, this wouldn't have happened. And I'd like to thank you very much for all of our interactions over the last 12 months or so. You've made me feel really, really welcome. And I'd like to say how I know how important the foundation is and its membership, and the support you've given to the football club has been and will continue to be really, really important, a big lifeline for this football club, both in terms of finance and just general support. So well done to you all, and I look forward to answering all of your questions. There's a lot of you here, so hopefully we'll have enough time to get through them all.
Brilliant. Thanks very much, Tony. First and foremost, tell us a bit about how this investment all came about and what attracted you to Scottish football specifically.
Yeah, so as a lot of you may know, Brighton and Hove Albion is my boyhood club. I've been the owner and chairman of Brighton for 16 years. And a few years ago, I was looking to get involved in another football club. And it took, along with my fellow investor Alex Musio, we were looking all over Europe, and we landed on Union Saint-Gilloise in Brussels for lots of reasons. Easy to get to. It's a great league. It's a high league. It's a league we thought that we could win and we could be successful in Europe. And that has gone very, very well, perhaps even better than I thought. And so I then, a couple of years ago, was thinking of Scotland. Growing up in the 70s and 80s, it's very different to what it is today. There's not much football coverage, but Scottish football was talked about in the newspapers a lot more than, obviously there's English football, but in terms of much more than any other league, including Italy, Spain, Germany. It may seem a bit surprising today. Certainly people in England would be surprised. And so I've always followed Scottish football in different ways. Perhaps unlike a lot of you, I also always like to see the Scottish national team do well. That's how I was growing up. I thought it's obviously England, it's always about England, but if Scotland, Northern Ireland, Wales, even the Republic of Ireland do well, for me that was good. I know being an English person, it's easy for me to say, and I know it's not quite reciprocated across the board. When I was growing up, it was not just an Old Firm show. That I do remember I'm sure looking around here, quite a few of you remember 1986. I'm sorry to have mentioned it, maybe that wasn't such a good idea. And I can't remember his name, but somebody scored 2 very late goals. I remember that season because I'd backed Hearts at about 8-1 to win the league and go into the last game. It was looking very pretty, and all we needed to do was get a point against Dundee, and I'm sure you all know, didn't quite happen. So, in terms of Scottish football, I've always followed Scottish football. I'm looking from afar. I don't like the fact that the last 35 years completely dominated by the Old Firm, and probably the last 15 years, apart from the one season Rangers won the league, it's dominated by one club. It's not good at all, and I believe I can make a difference, I can help make a difference, and I don't want it to be dominated just by two teams. So I did look and thought about clubs in Scotland, and as soon as I met Anne, and as soon as I really looked at Hearts, I knew this was the club that I'd like to invest in, and here I am today.
You're obviously very clued up about Scottish football. How do you see the current state of play in Scotland? Like you say, Celtic and Rangers seem untouchable. Hibs have the Black Knights and Bill Foley. Aberdeen have Dave Cormack. Are you excited for the challenge that's ahead of you?
Well, I think it's really important overall for Scottish football is for it not to be a 1 or 2 club show, and it's not going to be from now on. I assure you, and I assure everyone here. I welcome the investment from other clubs outside of the Old Firm. I think that's really good for Scottish football. It's not good at all that the Scottish clubs have not historically been doing well in Europe, so it lowers the Scottish coefficient, which means that even if you win the league, like Celtic this year, they've got to win 2 knockout games to actually get into the group games of the Champions League. I'm very confident that coefficient over the next few years will change. It will be really good for Scottish football. I really hope it will be really good news for Hearts. And I think it would be good for Scottish football overall. And I think if the level of the SPL goes up, I think that would be good for Scottish players, which will naturally help the Scottish national team. So, I'm very excited about that challenge. And I think the days of it being a 2-runner race have gone.
Fantastic. You mentioned your investment was ratified back in June. Just to sort of cover this off, how involved will you be at Hearts on a day-to-day, week-to-week and year-to-year basis?
Sure. So the executive team at Hearts and the board of directors, they're responsible for the day-to-day running of the football club and the governance of the football club. I think I can certainly help out by giving strategic advice and strategic insights. I've been in football for 16 years, so I think there'll be many opportunities to make introductions to the right people at Hearts, and I think that will be really useful. On the media and fan side, I think Jerry mentioned at one of these events a few weeks ago that I don't do too many such events. Just to put it into some kind of perspective, at Brighton and Hove Albion I do maybe 2 or 3 such events a year, and when I took control at Union St Gilloise, I did a one-off press conference. Just to give you some perspective that I'll be much more, in the background, but following extremely keenly.
Your investment proposal, it was overwhelmingly voted through. I think it was 98.5% from the foundation members. What was your reaction to that when you heard that number and that all came through?
Well, I was exceptionally pleased, and it's an amazingly high percentage. I certainly was not expecting that, and it shows your belief in what I have to offer, and I want to thank you all very much for that.
The word disrupt has been the buzzword over the past few of these 90 Minutes events, and just I think for Hearts fans over the last few months, Graham Jones and Derek McInnes talking about it. What does disrupting Scottish football look like to you?
Well, it means that at the start of each season, the fans and the media are not talking about it being a two-runner race. And that will not be the case, as I said, from now on. Every game that Heart of Midlothian plays in, we will play to win. Every tournament that Hearts are in, we think we can win it. We are aiming to win it. I accept the fact when we get in the Champions League, that may be a little bit difficult. But we have to have belief. We have to have big belief in who we are and what we are and our players and our head coach and everyone at the football club. I certainly do. And I think that the squad of players that Graham has helped put together under Derek McInnes, I think we will continue to get stronger year on year on year.
We're here at a night organised by the Foundation of Hearts. Obviously, you made mention of that in your opening speech there. We're the biggest fan-owned club in the UK. Is that something that appealed to you when you looked to invest in the football club?
Yeah, it really did. I mean, it's until I started looking into Scottish football, I wasn't aware of that. I mean, there's not many fan-owned clubs in the UK. It doesn't seem to work that well. So, kudos to all of you for making it work. It's obviously a lot more common on the continent. So I'm really encouraged by it, and I love the spirit of the foundation, and I'd like to understand, more as I go on this Hearts journey. I'd like to understand more of how it's run and how it works.
To go back to the very start, what made you decide to be involved in professional football? What made you decide to start investing in clubs, and obviously with Brighton first and foremost?
Yeah, so it goes back a long way. When I was growing up, I used to go to the Goldstone ground for Brighton games. I started going when I was 6 or 7. My grandfather, Harry, was on the board of directors. He was vice chairman from 1973 until 1980, when sadly he passed away on the team coach at Stoke City. My uncle, Ray, has carried the baton onwards from 1986. He's been on the board, or in fact just before 1986, he's been on the board now for over 40 years. So it's in my blood. Football is in the blood. I love football, playing, watching, all sorts. And it was when, unfortunately, our old owners at Brighton and Hove Albion sold the Goldstone ground in the mid-90s without having a new ground to go to. It's just ridiculous that it was allowed. The good thing was that we have a significant fan base. They came together and saved the football club. A big fan, Dick Knight, got a consortium, took over the club in 1997. We had 2 years playing our home games at Gillingham, which was a 4-hour round trip, which is pretty astonishing, really. It was at that time Dick saved the club, but when we got back to Brighton, we had 12 years at Withdean Stadium, which was just a tiny athletics track, which I used to run at school, so it's not fit to be for a professional football team to play at, but we had no choice. We needed to get back to Brighton. And it was around that time in the early 2000s that myself and a few other people were helping out financially to keep the club afloat operationally, and also we were trying to get permission for the new stadium at Falmer, and that took a lot of money as well. And then over the years there, I certainly realised by the 2005 that the stadium was going to cost a lot of money, we're going to have to borrow a lot of money, and I was probably the last man standing, willing and able to invest substantially to get the stadium, as and when we got the planning permission up and running. So that's how I got involved in Brighton, and I've got absolutely no regrets. I love every single minute of it, and wouldn't have it any other way.
I mean, your passion for Brighton Hove Albion is obviously very, very clear to see. You went from fan to being owner and chairman. How do you blend the sort of the analytics and belief with just the pure passion of being a Brighton fan? How do you separate the passion from the job at hand?
Yeah, it's a very good question. So, as a fan and an owner of a football club, it's a dangerous combination, and I'm sure many of you have seen that combination go downhill very quickly. So from day one, I always separated the two. So everything that we do as a football club, we do analytically. Doesn't mean we don't use emotion. For sure there's emotion in football clubs, but we use rational decision making the whole way. When it gets to 3 p.m. on a Saturday, all that goes out the window. I'm watching from the stands and I'm extremely emotional when the games are going on, but that doesn't affect the decision making. Obviously the head coach and the players, we don't want them to be too emotional. We need them to be very focused. But I, as a fan, as the chairman, it doesn't matter. During those 90 minutes, I can get, pretty excited.
Will we see a similar passion from yourself here at Tynecastle? Obviously, you're attending the game tomorrow night.
Yeah, I can't wait. My first live SPL game, my first Hearts game. Really looking forward to it. And yeah, I will be passionate watching Hearts, absolutely. I've heard the atmosphere is pretty special. The fans are unbelievable. Yeah, that's what I love about football. Bring it on.
Now, James Franks has been named on the board as your representative. Tell us a bit about your relationship with him and what he'll be able to bring to the football club as well.
Yeah, I've known James a long time. He's a lawyer. He's been my legal advisor, representative for over 17 years now. He knows me very well. He's been involved in all of my football investments when I've invested into Union, Melbourne Victory recently, and now Hearts. He's a strategic advisor for a lot of things that I do. I think he'll be a superb representative on the board. He's very excited about the role, and he'll be coming to as many games as he can. And I think it's going to be, he'll be a big success.
Brilliant. Now, we've mentioned Brighton, but maybe a more pertinent comparison is with Royal Union St.Gilloise, who you mentioned earlier. Eventually you started alongside Alex Muzio. Tell us how that all began and obviously the sort of progression you saw there.
Yeah, as I was saying before, Brighton was successful. We had a lot of experience. We thought we could make a difference in another football club, because at one football club there's only so many players you can buy, and I thought that experience and that expertise in bringing players in, we should try it somewhere else. And it took us a while to find. We needed the right country, we needed the club which had similar values to us, which didn't have a history of problems with fans and fan violence, a place which wasn't too difficult for us to get to. From Alex and I both live in London, and a country where a club in a country where we could have success. So if you look at Portugal, the top three there completely dominate, and a lot more than even in Scotland, and clubs below the top three in Portugal, cannot win the league. And so Belgium has high quality football. Although there's some big teams there, we thought that in time that we could. When we looked at Union St.Gilloise, it was based in Brussels, so it was really easy for us to get to. Brussels is a wonderful city, easy to attract players. It ticks a lot of boxes. The only slight issue was Union St.Gilloise had a great history. They won 11 titles, but the last one was before World War II. They'd been out of the top division for about 50 years, and when we took over, they'd only just survived getting relegated out of the second division. And when you get out of the second division in Belgium, you really are nowhere.
Just to digress slightly, a hot topic just now is multi-club ownership and staying on the right side of UEFA with that as well. That was something you had to address at Union Saint-Gilloise. Tell us what that looked like and how that relates, if at all, to the situation here at Hearts.
Yeah, I mean, that's multi-club ownership is quite a hot topic in the football world the last couple of years, and obviously we've seen what's happened with our friends Crystal Palace, who have lost their spot in the Europa League to Nottingham Forest. The way I view it from my perspective, and the clubs that I have invested in, I don't see it as multi-club ownership per se, because each club is individual, each club runs its own, there's no sister club, there's no, although I can help bring connections with the different clubs, each club is its own club, it's run independently, and I truly believe that is really important, and that's what I bring. So although there will occasionally be transfers between Brighton and Union, and there may be in the future Brighton and Hearts, that's only done if it's in the best interest of Brighton, and if it's with Hearts, it's in the best interest of Hearts and the individual player, which is quite different to a lot of other ways that certain people and organisations run their multi-club.
Back to the success story over in Belgium. You took over 7 years ago when they were in the second tier. I think you've won 2 domestic trophies and you just won the league title for the first time the season passed there. Did that success come quicker than you might have expected, or was that always in the plan?
Well, as I'm sure a lot of you know, it's never easy to predict when things can happen, when promotions can happen, when success happens, because it's football, and even over a season, things can be difficult. We were in the second division, only one club at that time got promoted, and so although we would have liked to got promoted sooner, we got promoted in our third season, which was to some extent so around the time we thought it may have taken. We would like to have been sooner. What has been magnificent, and so much credit to Alex Musio and Phil Bormans, the CEO, and Chris Loughlin, who's the sporting director. Those two have been there for a long time, and Alex has been the president there since we took over. The last 4 seasons have been exceptional. So each of the first 3 seasons, we were very, very close to winning the league. We finished second, then third, then second. And last season was even more exceptional, because in the playoff system there, some similarities to the SPL, where the league splits. There it's after you've played everyone twice after 30 games, and you have 10 playoff games. But the big difference is the points are halved. I think that's the only league that I'm aware of that happens. It does make it more interesting, but in the very first season we got promoted, we were a long way clear at the top, so the halving of the points didn't help us. But the good news is last season, when we were third in the regular season, we did it unbelievably. So in those 10 playoff games, we won 9 and drew 1, and just beat Club Brugge for the title. So everyone at Union was absolutely delighted, and so was I.
Yeah, a big round of applause for that. Superb achievement. You've mentioned Alex Musio a couple of times now. We had Graham Jones here for an event a couple of months ago. He said that he'd visited Belgium and met with Alex. How involved with each other are the teams that you've invested in, and is there a lot of sharing of ideas there as well?
Yeah, I think that's right. It's about the sharing of ideas. They're all independently run, but getting key people at each of the football clubs to meet each other, to visit, and to share good practice, and both ways, I think makes a lot of sense, and that's what happened. And I think Graham had a really good time, and I just want to congratulate Graham for the work that he's done in the short time at Hearts, because the work he's doing at the moment in the transfer market is superb, and big credit to him and to Derek as well.
Absolutely. You kind of mentioned it earlier on, but Belgium also has its giants, I suppose, in terms of like Anderlecht and Club Brugge and teams like that. Did you see a comparison with Belgium and Scotland when you were looking at investing in Hearts?
Yeah, there's certainly similarities. in Belgium, we were a long way behind, and there was a lot of clubs between Club Brugge and Anderlecht and Union. Obviously, here in Scotland, there's the Old Firm and then there's Hearts. So it's a big difference there. The budgets are similar-ish as well. When we got into the top division in Belgium, the bigger clubs may have had 4, 5, 6 times the budget of Union, and Hearts, compared to Celtic and Rangers, will be similar. Maybe it's slightly more Celtic against Hearts, but it's not so dissimilar.
I mean, it's interesting you say that. I think that, you know, with Union Saint-Gilloise and Brighton, when you invested in both of them, the ceiling above their heads was maybe a lot higher. Hearts obviously are deemed as the third force, certainly by the people in this room anyway, in Scottish football. How do you look at that in terms of the challenge? Is it more difficult, or is it less obstacles to overcome?
I think it's less obstacles. There's no doubt in my mind that, from what I'm hearing from people I speak to at the football club, that the target every season, outside of the cups, but the target in the league was to finish third. I'm hoping that will now change, that the target is the absolute minimum each season, that we should finish as third, and we should be trying to win the league and trying to compete with Celtic and Rangers.
Now, Jamestown Analytics has been the word on everyone's lips this summer. Contrary to popular belief, you don't actually own Jamestown Analytics, but there's a long-standing relationship there. So tell us, through the benefit of your experience, how big is the advantage that Hearts can get from using Jamestown?
Yeah, Jamestown Analytics has the best football data analytics in the world. It gives its clubs the best possible advice, mainly on recruitment of players, but also on some on their opposition as well. So it is really good news that Hearts have an exclusive relationship with Jamestown Analytics. So Jamestown Analytics, per the contract, cannot advise on any other Scottish football team. So that is a significant advantage for Hearts, and hopefully that we will all see that this season and for many seasons to come.
Brilliant. I mean, you mentioned the great work that Graham Jones and Derek McInnes have done in the transfer market already. We're seeing players coming in from maybe lesser known teams, lesser known leagues. How much of a peek behind the curtain can you give us in terms of your understanding about how Jamestown obtains in-depth analysis and data on players coming from teams and leagues such as that?
Yeah, Jamestown Analytics has access to so many football leagues, so many football teams, so many football players across the world, which means that a lot of Hearts' signings, as you've seen this season and in coming seasons, will be from all types of players, all nationalities, from many, many leagues across the world. So it has access to that data. The data that it has is unique. So a lot of football clubs use the data which is available for all football clubs. So it's unique data, it's really excellent data, and they've got the tools to be able to use that data to the benefit of its clients and for this purpose for Hearts.
In recent years, we've seen Liverpool and Chelsea spending quite big on Brighton players. Is there a concern that Celtic and Rangers may look to take Hearts players in the future because we've got use of Jamestown, or would this be deemed a success, or would it be a concern going forward?
It sounds like a success to me. If Rangers and Celtic are regularly knocking on Graham's door wanting to buy our players, however, it may well be that Rangers and Celtic won't be able to buy the Hearts players because they may have bigger clubs to go to.
Now, we've seen Matt O'Reilly go to Brighton, we've seen Nicholas Kuhn go to Como, who are another Jamestown affiliate in recent windows. Does this show how involved the data already is here in Scotland? Yeah,
I think, as I said, JTA will look at all players at all clubs, and so Como is one of JTA's clients, and what JTA does is give the information to the clubs, and the clubs themselves make the decisions on what to do. But yeah, they look at players at all leagues and a lot of and leagues which are at much lower level than Scotland.
Everyone in this room, I think, will agree that Hearts underachieved last season, missed out on the top six, didn't make it to a cup final. With a new head coach in place and the full use this transfer window of Jamestown Analytics, what do you believe Hearts should be achieving this season?
Yeah, I don't like to make predictions on any one game or any one season because there's so many variables involved. All I will say is that Hearts have got an exceptionally good squad this season, and I think there's every chance that they will have that we will have success this season. There's no doubt that not being in Europe, although hopefully this is a one-off, that we don't make the group stages. And as I indicated before, it's not easy to make the group stages because there's only 2 guaranteed group stages, 2 spots that are guaranteed, 2 Scottish teams that are guaranteed to play, in the group stages every season, while the coefficient's so low. So even Rangers, who finished second, had they lost 3 qualifiers and they won their first one, but had they lost 3, they don't even play any group stage games. But I think not being in Europe this season gives Hearts an excellent chance in the league and an extra chance perhaps in the cups as well.
Hearts fans have very high expectations for the club. I think you've maybe blown that out of the water with your expectations this evening from what you said, but how aware are you of the expectations that Hearts fans here and watching at home have for their club and where we believe we should be standing in Scottish football?
Yeah, Hearts fans should have every right to have big expectations. I don't think historically the expectations have been big enough, or maybe the club hasn't been able to be good enough on the pitch. And I know it's difficult. We know that the old firm have a huge advantage in terms of their turnover, their commercial deals, their fan base, etc. But that's all changing because we are going to have a squad to be able to compete with the very best teams in Scotland.
Fantastic. Have you been keeping up with the team's results so far this season? Obviously during the League Cup campaign, the pre-season match against Sunderland here last weekend as well. How do you feel that things are coming together under the new head coach, Derek McInnes?
Well, I think the 2 friendly games and the 4 cup games, the results and the performances have been outstanding. The caveat is we understand the cup games against teams in lower divisions. The win against Sunderland was superb, but their season, is starting 2 weeks after the SPL season, and they're in a state of flux with lots of new players. But it bodes well. I think it's really good to have a good pre-season, but we all know that the real star is tomorrow night against Aberdeen here.
You mentioned the game. It's obviously a sold-out Tynecastle. Aberdeen will bring a full away section as well. Tynecastle under the lights. It is obviously very well known within Scottish football. How much are you looking forward to taking in the game?
Yeah, I'm massively looking forward to the game. I know the Hearts fans won't let me down. I'm very hopeful that Derek and the players won't let me down, and I really can't wait for the game.
Brilliant. We're getting towards the end of these questions. Actually, we might finish a little bit early here, but what excites you the most about being involved with Heart of Midlothian Football Club?
Well, I think the thing that impresses me the most is the passion of the Hearts fans. I've heard about it, I've spoken to quite a few people, but I'm going to really see it tomorrow night, and I really see what a bright future there can be for this great football club. So I think that's the main thing which I think is going to excite me from now and for the future.
And just before we take a break, Tony, as well, as you can see, our supporters have really taken to you and obviously want to get behind exactly what you want to do with the club. Do you have a message for the people sitting in here and the fans watching at home?
Yeah, absolutely. Whether you're a young fan or an old fan, don't worry about the fact that we haven't had that much success in the last few years. Going forward, I can confidently predict that this club is going places. Support the club in any way which you can. The foundation does a brilliant job, so it'd be great to get even more foundation members, and I really look forward to the journey ahead.
Fantastic. We're going to take a quick break. And we'll be back in 15 minutes.
Cheers.
Okay, so in this section, we've taken a lot of fan questions over the past couple of weeks that have all been put in via the info at Foundation of Hearts email address. So a huge thanks to everyone who sent them in. There was obviously a few duplicates. A lot of people want to know similar sorts of stuff, so we've collated as many as we can here, and we're going to put it towards Tony. First of all, Tony, I think this was the most popular question that we got. You kind of covered it in the first half, but simply, what attracted you to Hearts as a club?
Yeah, as I was saying before, I thought Scottish football, is ripe for investment, and as you mentioned before, Aberdeen and Hibs have got some recent investment. And when I looked at the Scottish clubs and when I met with Anne, I knew that Hearts was the club for me. I knew, the unique nature of the fan ownership, the history of Hearts being based in Edinburgh, the passion of the fans. I could just envisage Hearts going from strength to strength, and I wanted to be a part of it.
You mentioned fan ownership there. Did you ever see that as a potential hindrance, or was it always a help when it came to potentially investing in this football club?
Yeah, good question. I really wasn't sure. Fan own, and particularly what happened to the club with the owner before and the foundation got involved. It was a really difficult time. As I said, I understand how that must have been for Hearts fans, because as a Brighton fan, I went through that in the 1990s. So I didn't know what the reaction would be, and if they didn't want an outside investor, that's fine, then I would look somewhere else. But when I met with Anne, she was confident that the foundation would appreciate me being an investor, and as talks went on, and she spoke to the directors of the foundation, they were all on the same page, and it took a while to get through, but I think we were singing off the same hymn sheet, and as time went on, I just got more and more excited about the chance of getting involved in this very, very special football club.
Understandably, there's a lot of questions from the fans around about analytics and how that's helped the likes of Brighton and now obviously Como and Sangawaz, and how it could help Hearts. But how do you balance data with traditional football intuition when making decisions, and has there ever been a time when you've gone against the data?
Yeah, I talk from a Brighton and a Albion perspective. We base a lot on data. Data is really important to our decision making, but it's far from the only thing. So when James Analytics give advice to Hearts, they're just giving advice, they're talking about the players, but it's up to Graham and his team to do a lot of work on the individual players. Will they suit the system? What are they like as a person? How are they in the dressing room? So all of these factors are really important. So data is an extremely important one. From a Brighton point of view, we wouldn't sign somebody if the data flagged them up as not unlikely to do well at Brighton, regardless of how well some of our scouts may see them, and in spite of how brilliant a person they are. So we need everything to combine. So in each individual season, each club will only bring a certain number of players into the first team squad. So you want to, as much as possible within your budget, want to make sure that each of them fits the bill. They don't all have to be first 11. Obviously, you get younger players, you have investment players, you have first team ones, and that can change obviously as the season goes on. But data is extremely important, but it's far from the only aspect in terms of recruitment of players.
It's been said and it's been mentioned. I think that to sign a player for Heart and Midlothian now using Jamestown Analytics, they need to pass the test, so to speak. Does Jamestown also analyse our current first team squad, and what would that potentially mean if players weren't passing the marker for Jamestown Analytics.
Yeah, Jamestown Analytics will certainly give information to the football club, to Graham, on each of the players currently at Hearts, and then it's up to Graham and his team and the board to decide what to do with that information.
Another one that's come in. Do you have any say on whether or not a player from Brighton or any other of your clubs could be sold to a rival of Hearts? I think the example being used here is that Bournemouth recently sold Max Aarons to Rangers, obviously Bournemouth being affiliated with House.
Yeah, absolutely. Brighton have, over the last few years, sold players to teams in Belgium, rivals of Union Saint-Gilloise. So again, Brighton and Albion is a separate entity. It runs its own business separate to Hearts. And so Brighton will do what is best for Brighton and Albion Football Club and for the player. And if that's to sell a player to another team in the SPL, then that can definitely happen.
What do you realistically see our chances of winning the league title within the next 5 to 10 years as a businessman and as a betting man too? Fans' words, not mine.
Well, as I said before, it's very difficult to be confident of winning a title or winning a cup in any one individual season. And even over a number of seasons, there's absolutely no guarantees. The only thing I can say is I'm supremely confident that over the next 5 years, Hearts will have an extremely good squad. It will be competing in the top, near the top of the SPL. Whether we actually are good enough to actually win the title, there's obviously no guarantees on that. But I will be very disappointed if in the next 10 years we don't win at least one SPL title. Just say we haven't won it yet.
I was going to say the folk at the bar definitely seem the most excited there as well. You've kind of blown this next question out of the water, but what excites you the most about the next 2 to 3 seasons? And I think this is it's interesting, a timescale that a lot of fans have been given when put the questions in. What excites you the most about the next 2 to 3 seasons?
Well, what excites me is bringing in really good players, watching Hearts win games. I'm addicted to winning. I'm addicted to success. I'm addicted to winning titles, and that's what I want to see happen here at Tynecastle.
Fantastic. Again, you kind of covered this in the first half, but when you took over at Union Saint-Gilloise, did you think it was conceivable they could be national champions within 7 years, or did they overperform? And how do the odds of Hearts winning the title right now compare with USG's when you first invested?
Well, as I said before, I knew that when Union Saint-Gilloise got into the top division would be really competitive. What I certainly did not expect is we would be right at the top, challenging for the title for the first 4 seasons, and to finish second, third, second, first is a tremendous effort, and it surpassed my expectations. And they were high at Union, and they're high here at Hearts. Again, I can't predict exactly what will happen, but I'm extremely confident we will be very, very competitive.
Another one on recruitment here. Obviously, we're talking about Jamestown Analytics. Will that also help us sell well as recruit well? The model that's been created by Jamestown. Are we able to offload players who historically we would be unable to get rid of, and will we generally get better prices for players with the model as well?
Yeah, I can't talk so much about the players who have been here for a while, but what I can predict is that the players that Hearts have brought in this summer, and players that Hearts will bring in the future, they won't work out, obviously, and some may be sold for a loss. But overall, the players that we bring in will hopefully improve, and a lot of them will be sold for profits. That's the idea, and then you use that money to bring in even better players. And that's the model that we've used at Brighton and Union Saint-Gilloise have used, and that's what I'm hoping to see here at Tynecastle.
Another Celtic and Rangers question. What do you think is the biggest factor to overcoming the duopoly in Scottish football? I think it's maybe more become a monopoly in recent years with Celtic winning the most, but what do you think is the biggest factor to overcoming it?
Well, the key is to be able to compete on the pitch. I mean, we can't compete with budget, obviously, and the idea is, and I've seen it happening over the last couple of months, we've brought in some really good players. And although Celtic and Rangers' budgets will always be far superior to Hearts, that doesn't mean they're going to necessarily have better teams, better squads of players. So we've just got to recruit well, work well as a team, as a club, be together, have a really good head coach, a good mentality in the dressing room, work hard, and I think we can challenge the old firm.
Here's another one, maybe from the guys at the bar. Could Hearts be challenging for European trophies in the next 10 to 20 years?
I thought I answered that one. Look, Hearts are going to continually improve, and there's no reason to think that certainly the Conference League is a very, very winnable tournament if Hearts get in it. Europa League is obviously tough. There's a lot of very good teams, but as Hearts continue to improve, if things go right in some one-off games, there's no reason that a Scottish team can't win the Europa League, and that means there's no reason that Hearts can't win the Europa League. As I say, Champions League, catch me in 5 years on that and we can discuss it.
What aspects do you think the club could improve on in terms of developing players? So, for example, should we be focusing on training ground improvements, mindset shifts? Are there any aspects from your time at Brighton and Union Saint-Gilloise that you would strive to see implemented at Hearts?
Yeah, I'm not in a position to talk about those sorts of aspects. What I will say is, just to repeat what I said before, is I can help open doors for Graham and others at the club to speak to people at Brighton, people at Union, and I've got a lot of contacts at many other clubs as well. So I think there are ways that I can help give open doors for people to meet and to give different ideas. I think the whole ethos of the football club is that in all areas of the club we should be looking for continued improvement.
If Hearts have a great start to the season similar to Aberdeen last campaign, would you seek to give us a few top quality loans from Brighton to add real quality to the squad to push for the title or for second place?
Yeah, as I said before, the two clubs are individually run. Look, there may be an opportunity if it's right for Brighton and Albion, it's right for the player, and we think it'd be good for Hearts, then deals can happen. But I don't think there'll be that many deals between the two clubs.
That's a yes.
That'll be the person that asked the question then. What will your direct involvement with the club be on an ongoing basis, particularly given James Frank's appointment to the board, and what benefits do you perceive your personal involvement will bring to the club?
Yeah, as I said before, I'm very much in the background. I'm around to give strategic advice, strategic insights where needed to open some doors, but I'm not at all involved in the running of the club in any way.
Do you think that disrupting the established order in Scottish football will be a harder challenge than in Belgium, and can any lessons be taken from your success at USG and applied here?
Yeah, I think the challenges in Belgium for Union Saint-Gilloise were more because the starting level of Union Saint-Gilloise were bottom of the second division. So there's a lot of teams between Union and the big 3 or 4 clubs in Belgium. Obviously, the difference here is that over the last 35 years, the old firm have completely dominated. But I think that the gap is more achievable. So, as I've shown in the last hour or so, I'm really confident of the squad, the team that Hearts have currently got. I think that will continue to improve in years to come. So I am confident that Hearts will have lots of success in the future.
That's another Jamestown one. What differentiates Jamestown Analytics from other analytic models used by other teams?
Yeah, so Jamestown Analytics has huge amounts of data. It's unique data, and it's top quality data. So it's the best football data analytics company in the world in terms of advising clubs. And that data, the way Jamestown Analytics use the data, analyse the data, is also of a very, very high quality, and that data is available to Hearts and to no other football club in Scotland.
Businesses generally work in 5-year plan cycles. What do you envisage our 5-year plan involves beyond the standard Heart and Midlothian fan expectations of European football and challenging for cup or silverware?
Yeah, I think for football clubs, 5-year cycles are not always the right thing. I'm sure on a corporate level, commercial level, the directors will have a big plan of action. In terms of on the football side, I think it's good to have a very short-term plan, but a long-term plan of continually improving. If you improve your squad, you carry on doing well, you get into Europe, the group stages of Europe on a regular basis, that gives more income, which can go into transfers, into players, into salaries. And so I think that's the idea, and I'm not sure it's just a 5-year plan. I just think it's one of continuing improvement, and I want to see Hearts get better and better and better. Now, obviously, it's never going to be a straight line. There's going to be bad seasons along the way, but hopefully, when you look back in 10 years, when you look back over the last 10 years, hopefully you'll see something. You take away the the odd bad season here and there, but it will be a line of improvement in terms of winning games and finishing position and hopefully trophies as well. That's the most difficult thing, winning trophies, but hopefully we will get there.
If Heart and Midlothian is to go all the way, challenge for the SPFL and beyond, how important is it that we maintain and grow the number of fans pledging to the Foundation of Hearts?
Yeah, I think it's really important. I mean, the foundation is very special. The contributions that all of you here have made and all the foundation members, has been vital over the last 10, 12 years or so. And that continues to be the case. The financial and also just the whole community aspect of the foundation, I think is really key to what we have here at Hearts, and I hope that will continue for a very long time.
If the right player was identified, would you have any qualms about breaking club transfer records to get him? People in this room will know that our current record was the Bosnian bullet, Mirsad Bozlija, back in 2006. But would you have any qualms about the club breaking transfer records to get a player?
That will be a decision, obviously, for the board. But I think records are there to be broken, and obviously, it's really important that the board runs the club in an astute manner, in a financially sensible manner. So I think that will happen, but I think it will happen once there's success at the football club, that we are getting into Europe regularly, into the group stages, and we're able to sell players for good amounts of money. And I think that when there's success on the pitch, I think we're in a brilliant city here in Edinburgh, that I'm sure that there'll be a lot more sponsors, big companies, SMEs who want to get involved in Hearts.
Now that you hold a significant stake in Hearts, how do you see your role developing over time, beyond the obvious areas like recruitment and analytics? Are there other parts of the club, whether infrastructure, commercial growth or fan engagement, where you feel we can make real progress?
Yeah, as I said before, I'm not involved at all in the day-to-day, but I see myself involved in terms of opening doors. And James Franks, who's my representative on the board. He is extremely enthusiastic. He'll have lots of ideas when it comes to board meetings, when there's discussions of these things. In terms of my involvement is very much more in the background.
We understand the player trading model. However, what is the line between making a profit on transfers and maintaining a team capable of competing for honours, or can you achieve both?
Yeah, I certainly think we can achieve both. I've had a lot of experience at Brighton, and we've continually sold our best players and continually improved. And that's happened at Union Saint-Gilloise as well. If you look at the last 3 or 4 years, we've continually competed at the top of the Belgian league, and we've often sold our best 2, 3, 4 players every summer.
You mentioned the league format in Belgium, and this is a question about league format in Scotland. Do you see the current league format as a hindrance to Hearts challenging the Old Firm, given that we have to play them 8 times instead of 4 times? Which begs the further question, what are your thoughts on the current format of the league here in the SPFL? Yeah,
so I think you play 3 times, and then you play the top 6 play each other once. So playing the top 6 will play 1 more game. I don't think that's a problem, because it's the same for those top 6 teams. So I think the format makes some sense to me, that you play, in those last 5 games, the best teams will play each other. I don't think it's a hindrance at all.
And just finally, this is the last of the questions that have been sent in. What has surprised you about Hearts, or is there anything interesting that you've learned since looking into the club?
Well, I'm looking forward to visiting the museum tomorrow, so I think there's lots of interesting things there. I know a bit about the history, but I think there's a lot to learn, and I'm really looking forward to that experience.
Fantastic, thanks very much. Now, as you'll see emblazoned on the screens, it does say 90 minutes with Tony Bloom. So what we're going to do, and Tony says he's absolutely fine with this, we'll see, is we will welcome some questions from the floor now. So we've got a roving mic with James Sloggy over there. But what we're going to do is, because it is a Foundation of Hearts event, it's going to be exclusive to the people in the room. So we are going to say goodbye to everyone who's tuning in on YouTube. So give them a wave in the camera over there. I don't know if people are waving to ask a question or waving at people on YouTube, but we will now cut off the live service, so thanks everyone for tuning in, and for the next wee while, obviously we won't be able to get around everyone, but we'll do our best. So if we can see a show of hands for people who